But it's this idea of this crossover event when it comes to comic book storytelling. You know, we have these massive crossover events like Secret Wars, Infinity War, Crisis on Infinite Earth. Are these types of events that bring all these characters and all these storylines to sort of one moment? Are they beneficial for the narrative? Are they confusing? Do they alienate the common viewer? Is it beneficial? Like, what is the purpose of doing all of this?
Well, I mean, the purpose, I think, of doing it is, again, to kind of have a culmination of these, when you're just telling one character's story, you just have to reach their end, however many, issues or movies or whatever, you got to reach that character's end. But when you have characters spread over different shows or over different films, and the idea is to culminate together, like, it can be very tricky. I mean, I think that's what you want to do, is be able to conclude all the stories at once, but it could be tricky to do that because you have to be able to make the individual stories interesting enough while still leading up to, this big major event. But your other question is, does it alienate? I think it can. And I think that it can be very easy to do that. I know that in comics it can be very easy to do that because it could be time consuming and expensive to
Yeah.
read everything. And if you're like me, I like to know all of the story from all the characters going into the major event. And that can become, impossible to do to some degree. We saw this with, you saw this with the Arrowverse when that was on the CW. They had a great 5-part, story of where they did their version of Crisis on Infinite Earths. But the problem was that part 1 was on Arrow, part 2 was on The Flash, part 3 was on Supergirl, part 4 was in Batwoman, part 5 was in Legends of Tomorrow.
Which is genius.
It is genius, but if you're like some of the people that I have talked to about it in the past, like, oh, well, I only watch, Arrow and The Flash, so I was really confused why it started here and ended here. Like, I never watched that show.
Yeah.
Not everyone is like me, where I'm like, well, I'm watching all of them because I know there's going to be lots of convergence. Even if I don't like all of them, I'm still watching all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it can be alienating. It's easier with movies because it's less of a time commitment, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it's done. But I think that your casual viewer could walk into something like Infinity War or really any of the Avenger movies. You could walk into and it's like, well, who is that character? What are they referencing here? Like, oh, I didn't watch the first Captain America movie. I didn't watch, Iron Man 1 and 2, so I don't know who any of these people are, and they're acting like I need to know.